So it is not true that President Mahama never, said COVID will have effect. No, but he said in your specific case, you were reckless. You wanted to win an election at all costs and therefore spend beyond your means. And so by 2021, immediately after the election, November, you wanted to introduce e-levy. On the 19th of November 2021, when you read the budget, you introduced e-levy. That was when the problem started. And so by July 1st, 2022, you had to go to the IMF.
Well, he says that
it had nothing to do. Please, it had nothing to do. We said
that we don't have to play politics of.
Please, we said it was because even though COVID ravaged global economies, you had over 21 billion Ghana cedis that came to you by reason of COVID. You said your revenue projection and loss was 14 billion Ghana cedis. You got 21. And that should have provided you enough buffer. Already, you have the World Bank giving you $630 million. You had your special drawing right of 1 billion. You had another 1 billion from the IMF. All put together, 21 billion Ghana cedis. You had this opportunity, glorious opportunity. What did you do? You squandered it. Again, he makes the point about the taxes on petroleum products. President John Dramani Mahama in December 2015 introduced ESLA. ESLA was supposed to have only 5 years. What happened? You came and set up ESLA PLC and decided to use ESLA receivables for loans. Those loans are part of the, what they call the bonds, are part of the DDEP and all the matters with this. So how do you expect that today, when you have committed this country by reason of DDEP and other financial commitment, government should suddenly reduce?
Well, the argument he's making is that external factors and the way they play out in the global market affect our economy fundamentally because we're dependent on them.
That has always been the NDC politics. Look, Minister Setekwe had read the 2015 budget and given an indication that we'll be selling our crude for $85 per barrel. Within 3 months, crude prices fell from $85 to $40. When Minister Setekwe came for the revised budget and raised that issue, Dr. Bawumia downplayed it and said it was the mark of incompetence and reckless management of the economy at that time. And that was when he made his famous statement that how come that global factors move from, Ivory Coast, Burkina and others and only came to Ghana. So when they then raised the issue about COVID-19, we retorted and said, but you guys never believed that global factors would impact on our economy. That's a fact. So today, if you come here and say, President Mahama and never said global factors and this, what are we talking about?
This is his video.
Please.
On your own campaign.
I am not. That is what I'm telling you. He was in response to you. But let me even focus.
Where he says 6,700
kilometers. Let me focus.
When bombs are flying there, what has that got to do with Ghana? He did say it.
You see,
please conclude for me.
I'll tell you something. On the 4th of December, 2024, 3 days to the general election, okay, diesel sold at 15.8 Ghana cedis in this country. At that time, crude was selling at $70 per barrel. You were selling diesel at 15.80. Why? Because the exchange rate at that time was almost 16-14. That was why, even though crude was 70, you were still selling diesel for 15.80. At that time, with respect, Senior, you were a deputy minister. That should tell you the impact of Forex on general pricing. Because it was $70, but you were selling diesel for 15.80. You were selling petrol for 15.30. Even though crude was 70, because at that time, you could not manage the exchange rate well. Today, at the time when crude was doing $66, the maximum you could get petroleum product was 13 Ghana cedis. What does it tell you? Because of the management of the Ghana cedi. This is something you cannot run away from. These are facts. That is why I'm saying that you can express your opinion on those facts. But you cannot deny the factual. And when I speak, I give you the timeline. Tuesday, 1st November 2022, diesel sold at 23.49 Ghana cedis. 23.49. 1st November 2022. It was a Tuesday. That was the window for November 2022. The first window. At that time, you sold diesel for 23.49. What was the price of crude at that time? Because the exchange rate at that time was doing what? 17 Ghana cedis. Because remember that we had just gone to the IMF on the 1st of July 2022. Less than 4 months down the line, the exchange rate went to 17 cedis. Why? Because we were struggling with getting an IMF staff agreement. And 2, there was issue about whether we have enough forex in the country. And so even though crude price was a bit better, the exchange rate at 17 shot diesel price to 23. These are facts. 1st November 2022. You can Google and check. So, Senior, it is not that I knew all these dynamics, but you see, I wanted a structured conversation where we will focus on the issues. Thankfully, he, being my learned senior, was a deputy minister in the energy space, and so had a better view of the energy dynamics in the country. Unlike me, who, I'm just taking this office for a year, he had a firm control of that sector as minister, overriding. What legacy did you leave? ESLA PLC, we had committed ESLA funds. The receivables. Have we paid the ESLA bonds as we speak? Have we paid? How is President Mahama going to default again on those receivables? Please, we can do our politics, and I'm always willing to do the politics. But the point ought to be made clear. Today, if the exchange rate was doing 17 Ghana cedis to $1, we will be selling petroleum products not less than 20 Ghana cedis. That's a fact. That's a fact. And so if you come this morning and Senior, you try to intimidate me this morning, with filibustering and all those things. Senior, let's deal with the fact. At least. No, but that's why he tried doing this morning, to intimidate me on this platform. No. But these are facts. But look, let me conclude on this.
Please conclude, so that I go to...
President Mahama is determined to make things easier. Thankfully, the managers of the Ghanaian economy today have put matters, particularly with the exchange rate, under firm control. Firm control. And that firm control has mitigated the impact that this, exogenous factor would have had on the economy. You can deny it. You can deny it. In fact, there are people who even deny that Christ never died. But that's their matter to deal with. Please.